Folks, welcome back in. Collective healing starts with collective honesty, reclaiming all sides of history. A big topic today. We'll do our best on it. With the time we've got, Dr. Melissa Carver, mindset practitioner and author of Who the Hell Told You That? Also, Dr. Jose Pimienta, BEREA College professor of African and African American Studies and the author of Othello's Children in the New World. Pleased to have you both here.
Thank you. Good
Important discussion here, and we appreciate the opportunity to chat with you on it. Dr. Bey, credible evidence is there of a black or a Moorish presence in America prior to colonization?
I think to begin, we should look at the history first of the Olmec civilization.
Okay.
And the Olmecs are actually would be considered pre-Moorish, if Moorish means Muslim, because I have to make a distinction here. Usually when we talk about Moorish, we're saying that this is the period of the Islamic era in Al-Andalus, in what is now Spain and Portugal.
Okay.
Which would be the 8th century of the Common Era to about the 15th century of the Common Era. But the pre-Columbian African presence can be seen in places like Veracruz. In fact, people can go online and look up something known as El Negro, which is an image of an African that looks like the head of an African on the body either of a lion or the person is reclining. Oh, wow. Okay. And this is almost 3,000 years old. Then if we jump forward specifically to the period of the Moorish or Islamic sources, Al-Masudi from the 10th century, Al-Adrisi in the 12th century, talk about trade going on across between Muslims in West Africa, North and West Africa, into the Americas. And they talked about this as the land beyond fog and darkness. The problem isn't so much that the evidence isn't there, it's that usually Western scholars have ignored either these Islamic sources, and they've also ignored even looking at the archaeological evidence.
Yep. Once again, back to the seat is not at the table for the full picture here. Very interesting. Dr. Carver, with a multiracial Appalachian background, how did hearing this history, learning this history, because I mean we're not seeing this in our 6th grade primers, right?
Yes.
How did that affect you and your sense of self?
You know, when I met Dr. Bey and I started learning about all of the things that he teaches, I was just so incredibly grateful. It was like, what, over 20 years ago at this point, probably, at least 20 years ago. And it started to make me feel not so argumentative, I guess, because I was labeled argumentative in my classes. I got kicked out of class a lot, sent to the office a lot, because I would question what is written in the history books, not only out of things that I just kind of knew intuitively, family-wise, but also it just didn't make sense, right? If you really look at what we were taught and you ask the deeper questions, okay, but what was before this? What was also happening outside of just this story? And either my teachers didn't know, or they just didn't want to have the conversation. But they refused to have the conversation.
This is not the Melissa I know. Thank goodness we're asking these questions now, and we are able to make sure that we understand history, especially when you're dealing with thousands of years. Really important to make sure you know where we've been, and that's the only way to know where we're headed. So, do you recognize a shift in your students' confidence, Doctor, when you start to teach this course?
Yes, there's a saying: "We know ourselves by what we have done and do." In fact, and that is from someone named Dr. Milena Karenga, who some people may know as having been the first person to initiate what we have now as the holiday of Kwanzaa. But Dr. Karenga is also a historian, Africanist, also a political scientist. But this idea of having students find out more about their identity, their historical legacy, outside of what happened just in the context of slavery or oppression. Those are aspects, of course, of the experience of African people, of black people. But you don't singularly highlight that unless what you're trying to do is encourage a sense of inferiority or initiate this idea that your existence begins with your oppression. So when my students find out both about things like the ancient aspects of African history, whether it's, like I mentioned before, connections between the Olmec and ancient Egypt, or Nubia and the Carthaginians and the old Moorish Empire in the medieval period. That frames their understanding of their identity as descendants of African people or as black people very differently than if they think that their origins only begin with enslavement.
This makes all the sense in the world. Well, we've just scratched the surface here, but for folks watching that want to do a deep dive, what's our best place to send them? How do we get folks on this journey to learn about this rich history?
Well, just in terms of what I've shared, I would encourage people to read works like Alexander von Futenau, who was a actually German-born art historian who talked about and documented a lot of what I said earlier about the Olmec and the connections not only to Africa, but connections to Asia and even connections to Europe. This idea that the Americas was discovered by Columbus is really not, it doesn't hold up.
Yep. And how much people were intermixing, like myself being Melungeon, you know, we're taught that, oh, no one was mixing ethnicities, right, before a certain period. And then there was laws that prevented it. But all of this was going on long before these laws were created.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, this partnership makes perfect sense because Dr. Carver is always looking after emotional well-being. And this goes part and parcel with understanding who we are and where we're from. So,
that's right.
Dr. Carver, for folks that are looking for someone to ride shotgun with them on that journey, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Probably social media or just drmelissacarver.com.
Okay, there it is. Thank you all for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
A lot to think about.
Can I just say, I encourage all ethnicities to learn the history of all people, because that's how we build bridges.
No doubt about it.
That's right.
Appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back after this. Stay with us.